Hello, I'm Brent Toellner with the Kansas City Pet Project. I'm sorry that due to scheduling conflicts, I'm not able to be there in person with you today, but I do want to take a few minutes today to talk a little bit about transparency. And maybe more important than transparency, I want to talk to you about trust and building trust. In order for your organization, your shelter, or your rescue organization to be successful, you're going to need the support of your community to do so. You're going to need them to adopt, you're going to need them to foster, you're going to need them to volunteer, and you're going to need them to donate to your organization. You can't do it alone. You're going to need the community support. But before the community will fully support you, and I mean fully support you, they're going to have to trust you. People have learned to not be trusting. A lot of organizations have done a lot over the years to cause people to be distrusting of organizations. You're going to have to work really hard to earn that trust. So if you walk away from one bit of information from this presentation, I want it to be this: transparency builds trust. Let me say it again. Transparency builds trust. 4.5 years ago, our organization, Kansas City Pet Project, took over the operations of the Kansas City, Missouri Municipal Shelter. It's a shelter that serves a population of about 500,000 people every year. Until the shelter was privatized, it was a very high-kill shelter, like a lot of municipal shelters out there. Even the city's first attempt at privatization was wrought with challenges, including allegations of cruelty and neglect against the shelter operator. When Kansas City Pet Project took over, we were a completely unknown organization, and a lot of people were skeptical about us and expected us to also fail in this endeavor. A few weeks after we took over, I got a frantic email from one of our volunteers. This is a volunteer who had been with the shelter prior to Kansas City Pet Project taking over and was a great volunteer, very loyal, came out every Sunday to walk and socialize dogs. And she sent me this email about this dog named Barney. And she had been out the previous week and had fallen in love with Barney, who was this really cute, shaggy terrier type dog. And when she came out the following week, the first thing she did was run to Barney's kennel because she wanted to go spend a little bit more time with Barney, but Barney wasn't there. So she asked one of the staff people, like, well, where's Barney? What happened to Barney? And when our staff told her that Barney had been adopted a couple of days prior, she's like, was a little skeptical. She's like, was he really adopted, or did something really bad happen to Barney and they're just trying to appease her? Was it the same old of what had happened before? It's a natural reaction for people to assume the worst unless you give them a reason to assume otherwise. And from that day forward, at the end of every single day, 365 days a year, Kansas City Pet Project posts the name of every single pet that is adopted, returned to its home, or sent to another rescue organization. We do that because we want our volunteers to celebrate these dogs like Barney and the happy outcomes that are happening at our shelter. But even more important, we want them to trust that good things are happening to dogs like Barney so that there's no question of what happened because we all know. At KC Pet Project, we're very open with all types of information, even the bad stuff. We try to be honest about our challenges and our missteps and try to explain what we're doing to try to make things better. And sometimes talking about the bad stuff can really be helpful. We even report really bad things like the number of animals that died in care and about owner-requested euthanasia. Not really happy topics to talk about a lot. It makes us a little bit uncomfortable, but it really can help. When we started talking about the numbers of animals that died in our care, we used it as an opportunity to explain about some of our challenges with very young kittens who were the most vulnerable in our shelter. When we started talking about the challenges that we had with young kittens, it quickly ramped up our foster program so that we ended up with more kitten fosters than we ever had before. And we had small kitchen scales donated to the shelter so that all of our fosters would have kitten scales to weigh each kitten twice a day so they could recognize small decreases in weight loss before those weight losses became critical. And it allowed us to save more of those animals that we were previously losing, that we may not have ever been able to solve had we not been open and talked about it. We also talk about owner-requested euthanasia, which is a service that we perform at Kansas City Pet Project at end of life, and a decision that our staff makes, not necessarily the person surrendering the pet. It gives us an opportunity to talk to our supporters about people in our community with limited resources who really need our help, who may live in a resource desert without a lot of access to veterinary care. And it talks about our need to give them the support and help and compassion that all pet owners and pets deserve. It also gives us an opportunity to ask for help and tell the people in our community what they can do to help us, to help the people who need us most. And when you ask for help, they will help you because you were honest with them and they trust you. And when you have a community of people who are willing to help you, it can be a very powerful tool for life-saving. It also helps the volunteers and the people that are close in with the organization to have the tools to defend things when they get posted on social media or in comment sections of the media. KC Pet Project staff very seldom has to defend themselves in social media anymore because our volunteers are quick to go there to support us and to defend actions and explain why things are happening because we've given them the tools to be able to explain why certain things are the way they are. They do it because they support us and they trust us. And it wouldn't happen if we weren't transparent. Transparency builds trust. And without trust, you won't have success.